So how would A respond to S's hypothesis as presented in text 1? So in 2021, a team led by this researcher hypothesized that I'm doing a lot of abbreviating here, that the CI, the object that struck the Yucatan Peninsula way back in the past, was likely a member of the class of long-period comets. As evidence, the researcher cited the composition of samples from the crater as well as of samples obtained from long-period comet Wild 2 in 2006. So what was the hypothesis? And you notice that I passed over some of those long words. They're probably just not going to be necessary. Was likely a member of the class of long-period comets. So the object was a comet, specifically a long-period comet, but I think that's the most important thing. So carbonaceous chondritic composition, nice tongue twister, but or nice alliteration there, but probably not necessary. Let's see what the second passage says, though. So it says that although long-period comets contain, we've got 4 straight C's, comets contain carbonaceous chondrites, asteroids are similarly rich in these materials. Furthermore, some asteroids are rich in iridium, as this person points out, whereas long-period comets are not. Given the prevalence of iridium at the crater and more broadly in geographical layers deposited worldwide following the comet, A argues that an asteroid is a more plausible candidate. And so here we're just going to say that the object is an asteroid. So if they disagree on the nature of the object, the type of object that it was, that tells us a lot about what we want to find in our first word. So in other words, we probably are not going to want to pick C or D, because praising and concurring, well, praising, that's a positive. Concurring, agreeing. If they disagree, we're probably not going to have an answer that says something like that. But let's just read them. So A, insisting that it overestimates how representative, no. So in other videos, I talk a lot about, the variables or factors, and that's specifically something that I emphasize with the logically completing the text and strengthen weaken questions. But it can also be relevant here. And what I mean is, is this a factor that they're even talking about? No, they're not talking about how much or how well this represents long-period comets as a class. They're really disagreeing about or debating what the object itself was. So A is making a point about a factor that is just not emphasized or really even discussed. So B, by arguing, that is certainly something that, we'd expect to find with a disagreement. But the evidence here is also better than anything we'd find in C or D. So it does not account for the amount of iridium found in geographical layers. And so the prevalence of iridium, that is, one of the main reasons why they think the object is an asteroid. And so that is going to be our correct answer. But yeah, the similarities here are sort of acknowledged almost in passing. So they acknowledge this, but it's not to praise the other researcher. It is to, again, note that merely containing these elements, components, doesn't automatically guarantee that something is a comet, because, hey, asteroids also contain these materials. And then they're not talking about sites distant from the crater. They're talking about the crater itself, because they are trying to figure out the identity, or at least the type of object that created the crater in the first place.